Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into a genuinely fascinating topic, biological waste management, or the science of animal excretion. We spend a ton of time thinking about what goes into our bodies, the food we eat, the water we drink, but we hardly ever stop to think about how our body acts as this absolute master cleaner to get rid of the dangerous leftovers. By the end of this explainer, I promise you're going to see your own body in a completely new light. So let's jump right in.
Right off the bat, think about this. Have you ever wondered why your urine is darker and maybe even has a stronger smell on a sweltering hot day in a place like Kasese compared to a freezing cold morning in Kabale? Or why you suddenly break into a sweat during a long walk to the well? Well, it's not random. These are incredibly precise, life-saving adjustments your body is actively making to its internal chemistry. The whole goal? Keeping you healthy and perfectly balanced.
Here's our quick roadmap for today. We'll cover the body's waste problem, excretion versus egestion, the 4 excretory organs, the human urinary system, sweating in the sun, and finally, a review and exam focus.
Okay, part 1, the body's waste problem, toxins and kiosks. Picture a bustling kitchen in a local restaurant, a vibrant Ugandan kiosk. As the chefs are in there cooking up delicious machuke and beef stew, they're inevitably producing peelings, bones, and scraps, right? Now, if they just leave that rubbish there and don't take it out every single day, what happens? It starts to smell, it attracts flies, and very quickly it becomes a severe health hazard. Well, your body is exactly like that kitchen. The chemical reactions happening constantly inside your cells, which we call metabolism, produce leftovers. Your body literally has to take out the trash around the clock to stay clean and functional. And that brings us to our formal definition. Excretion is the process by which living organisms remove metabolic waste products from their bodies. The absolutely crucial word here is metabolic. We are talking strictly about the waste generated inside your cells during chemical reactions, like respiration. If we didn't excrete these very specific wastes, they'd build up, act like toxic poisons, and make us incredibly sick. Moving on to part 2, excretion versus egestion. Let's clear up some major confusion here.
We really need to separate 2 entirely different biological processes because this trips up so many students. Excretion is the removal of metabolic waste, like carbon dioxide from your cells or urea. Egestion, on the other hand, is the passing out of undigested food or feces from the gut. Listen closely. Feces is absolutely not an excretory product. Why? Because that undigested food never actually entered your body's cells. It essentially just passed through the biological tube of your digestive system. Remember this difference. It's a real game changer for exams.
All right, part 3, the 4 excretory organs. Just remember the letters K, L, S, L.
Think of these as your body's dedicated cleaning staff. The kidneys, liver, skin, and lungs. KLSL. First up, the lungs. Breathe out carbon dioxide and water vapor created during cellular respiration. Then you've got the kidneys. They're the heavy lifters, removing urea, excess salts, and excess water in the form of urine. Your skin, which is largely for temperature regulation, excretes water, salts, and just a tiny bit of urea as sweat. And finally, the liver removes bile pigments, which are basically the leftovers from breaking down old, worn-out red blood cells. 4 organs, working perfectly in sync to keep your internal environment totally safe.
Now for part 4, let's take an anatomy tour of the human urinary system. Let's look closely at the kidney. It's shaped exactly like a large nimbale bean. If we were to slice it open longitudinally, we'd see 3 main regions. The outer layer is the dark red cortex. Moving inward, we hit the paler medulla, which holds these fascinating pyramid-shaped structures. Finally, right in the center, we have the pelvis. Think of the pelvis as a hollow space acting like a funnel, collecting the waste and channeling it out into a tube called the ureter. Blood rushes in through the renal artery, gets scrubbed entirely clean, and that pure blood leaves through the renal vein.
So let's trace the full plumbing pathway. Step 1, your 2 kidneys filter the blood, creating that liquid waste we call urine. Step 2, those central funnels, the pelvises we just talked about, connect to 2 long tubes called ureters, which carry the amber liquid downward. Step 3, the urine drops into the urinary bladder, which is simply a muscular storage bag. And step 4, when it's time to go, the urine exits the body through a single tube called urethra. Kidneys, ureters, bladder, urethra. That is your whole system.
But how does the kidney actually do the filtering? I want you to think of a funnel filter model. Imagine pouring a mixture of water, salt, and sand through a cloth filter into a cup. The sand represents your large vital blood cells. They can't pass through the cloth, right? They stay safely in your blood where they belong. But the water and dissolved salt, which represents excess water and toxic urea, easily slip right through the microscopic holes in the cloth. Deep inside the kidney's cortex, tiny structures called nephrons are doing exactly this, letting the microscopic waste out while holding the important cells in.
Now, you might be wondering, where does that toxic urea even come from in the first place? Well, enter the liver, the body's ultimate chemical factory. When you eat protein, like beans or a piece of beef, your body breaks it down into amino acids. But here's the catch. Your body can't actually store excess amino acids. So the liver performs a vital excretory function called deamination. It takes those extra amino acids, tears them apart, and transforms the toxic nitrogen part into a much safer compound called urea. That urea is then dumped into the blood, where it travels straight to the kidneys to be filtered out. This brings us to part 5, sweating in the sun and the skin's dual role.
You know your skin is actually your body's largest organ, right? And embedded all over it are tiny sweat glands. When you're out in the hot Ugandan climate, your body temperature dangerously starts to rise. To fix this, your skin excretes sweat, a mix of water, salts, and a tiny fraction of urea. As this water hits the surface of your skin, it evaporates into the air. That phase change from liquid to gas literally pulls heat directly away from your body, actively cooling you down. It's a brilliant dual-purpose system. Temperature regulation with just a little bit of waste disposal thrown in for good measure.
Finally, part 6. Let's do a quick review and focus on exam prep.
Let's lock in our golden rules. Excretion strictly removes toxic metabolic wastes created inside cells. The kidneys are your main filters, turning blood waste into urine. The liver is the factory, turning toxic protein leftovers into safer urea. The skin removes sweat primarily to cool you down. And, guys, I'm going to say it one more time because it's that important. Know the hard difference between excretion and digestion. Feces is not an excretory product.
Let's test how well you can apply this. Why is it actually dangerous to hold your urine in the urinary bladder for too long? Think about the anatomy we just covered. Urine is a warm liquid absolutely full of waste products. If it just sits in that storage bag for extended periods, it creates the absolute perfect breeding ground for bacteria, which leads to painful urinary tract infections. Plus, constantly forcing the bladder to overexpand can cause pressure damage to the sphincter muscles over time. So when your body says the trash is full, you need to empty it.
Let me leave you with this final, incredibly practical question to ponder. Why do you sweat more when working in a maze garden on a sunny afternoon? Well, it ties everything together. Your muscles are working hard, increasing their metabolism, which produces excess heat and waste. Then, the blazing sun adds external heat. Your brilliant body detects this critical imbalance and immediately triggers your skin's sweat glands to open the floodgates. The evaporation cools you down, the salts and water get balanced, and your internal chemistry remains perfectly pristine. Honestly, your body truly is a master at staying clean. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep marveling at the incredible science inside you.